Welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokpe Ogun Yusuf. Now, quite a lot to digest this week, coming from all three arms of government. The first shot came from the judiciary, where the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, urged judges to not only be fair in their judgments, but to always stick with the law, regardless of public sentiments. In his words, we should never be overwhelmed by the actions of the loud voices of the mob or crowd and now begin to confuse law with sentiment or something else in deciding our cases. Now, this part of the CJN's speech at the opening of the new legal year sparked a heated debate among the citizenry, most of whom have exercised their franchise this year in some of the most disputed and litigious elections Nigeria has witnessed. Now, while we're still dealing with the fallout of that, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was at the National Assembly for his first ever presentation of the country's budget, tagged a budget of renewed hope. The 27.5 trillion naira estimate hopes to prioritize three key areas, namely security, employment, and poverty reduction. While many reactions are still trailing the budget presentation, it is significant to know that this is happening within the 16 days set aside to raise awareness on issues around sexual and gender-based violence, which oftentimes disproportionately affects women, who constitute a significant demography of people who are living in poverty. So tonight on Hard Copy, we delve into these issues with one who can relate with them all. Senator Ireti Kingiibe represents the Federal Capital Territory in the Senate and also chairs the Senate Committee on Women Affairs. Senator Kingiibe, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, an interesting resolution the Senate adopted this week, asking the National Universities Commission to prioritize building hostels for female undergraduates so as to reduce the spate of abductions. It's an area that hasn't really been given thought to when you look at how it eventually affects the probability of whether or not a woman will complete, especially a young woman, will complete her education in areas largely considered insecure. I'm just wondering how you got your fellow senators to queue up behind you on this. Well, this week you have moved a motion, and I think we saw senators wearing mufflers,
yes.
Orange mufflers specifically. You've moved a motion, or the National Assembly, the Senate more specifically, moved a motion, adopted a resolution asking the NUC to prioritize building hostels for female undergraduates to reduce the spate of abductions. And it's quite interesting because when you look at places where there are schools and maybe are largely insecure, if there's insecurity, it would largely affect whether or not students, particularly women or young girls, are able to complete their education. How did you get all the senators to queue up behind this?
Well, it was logical. I appealed to the fact that you have daughters, wives, sisters, and if none of those, every one of them has a mother or has had at some point in time. And I appeal to the fact that how would they feel if she's beaten or raped or abducted? So it is important. Stopping this scourge is not just up to women alone. It's up to the whole society. It's a national issue. And based on that, I'm happy to say that every senator that came to the chambers today wore a muffler in solidarity with the fight against gender-based violence. I also moved a motion, talked about how mostly women are affected by gender-based violence. Of course, some of them pointed out that some men are. I said yes, but they're in the minority, and if they do report it, they would be treated the same way as the women. And I also asked for certain prayers. One of them, I also told them about, though a lot of cases are reported, but so very few are actually prosecuted. And that in terms of death, 455 prosecutions, and yet we have 1,290 deaths, at least the ones that are documented on the National Gender-Based Violence Dashboard. So there has to be more consequences. So we talked about it, and I asked them for 1 minute of silence for all women who have died, and also to work with the women and offer solidarity for the 16 days of activism. Then I also asked for the universities accommodation for women, and basically schools should pay more attention to women and protecting them. The military, the police also should be more proactive in the way the cases are processed, so that there would be more prosecutions and consequences. And then asking that they should mandate I also asked that NAPTIP should look at the policies that affect gender-based violence and see how they can be improved upon. Then finally, that there should be a roadmap. They should ask the Senate Committee on Women Affairs to produce some sort of a roadmap to how we hope to solve this problem.
It's interesting. Yeah, at the federal government level, some people will say, well, we've made some progress. The very fact that there is even a dashboard is work that was done in the past.
Yes,
is testimony to that. There is a register now for sexual offenders housed at NAPTIP. So the needle has moved somewhat, particularly after the Senate passed, I think it was the 8th Senate that passed the VAP Act.
Yes.
And, there's been some progress in that respect. Where it will seem we have a lot of challenge is in the states. Some states have been more proactive than others. Some states are not even moving at all. So how do you intend to influence?
The VAP Act has been domesticated in all states except one.
The fact that we still have one left.
Yes, I'm surprised.
And beyond passing or domesticating the VAP Act, there's certain other, social infrastructure that should exist to support the implementation of the VAP Act. And not all states have that.
Last week, I attended conferences set up by the security agencies to get more gender-friendly. So far, the police, the army, and the civil defense have gender policies, the others not yet. But also we discussed how they could be more gender friendly, how the police can have women at the desks for reporting violence and rape, because it's much easier for a woman to talk about it with another woman. We discussed it, and they seem like they're willing to interface with the communities and have more progress.
It'll be interesting to see, what concrete measures can, because right now what we have is a resolution asking the NUC. And beyond the resolution, we've always been told that Senate resolutions are more like recommendations. But in this instance, the Senate also has powers the National Assembly has powers of appropriation.
Yes.
If the budget has just been presented to a joint session of the National Assembly, is it an area that you'll be looking at to see what part of the NUC budget has been allocated to building female hostels?
I will look at that, and also to see other ways that we can, for instance, maybe the security agencies might need a little bit more funding to pay special attention to women issues. I would look at the budget carefully, because the president only just presented it yesterday. And I'm also trying to, by next week, or maybe I think I'm going to leave it till after the budget, I have gotten a program I call Grid for Development, where I'm just waiting for the dashboard for that to come up, where every sector, so I want every committee in the Senate to be involved in gender mainstreaming. So I would make it easier by giving the dashboard to you, so you can tell me, so this is your sector, how many women are empowered. Is that for instance, one of the men came up to me to tell me that, Madam, this particular agency, you're on the committee, they don't empower women at all. They have no women there. The few that are there are treated badly, blah, 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 blah. We should bring it up when we have an interactive session with them. So it pleases me to see that the Senate though mostly men, have become a little more gender aware.
Well, let us see what eventually comes out
I'm hopeful.
as a result of that. But I mean, the budget has now been presented, and it's been tagged a budget of renewed hope. I'm just wondering whether you felt any hope as the president spoke on his plans for the country in the budget.
Well, he seemed sincere, because I was there when he spoke to us, and seems like he's doing his best. But it's not just up to him alone. Now we have to see how all the ministries and agencies, how they translate that sincerity into action and actual, events, budgets. What are they bringing? And how they actually implement them. Because when you ask for budget performance of the last year, okay, we were still in the process of doing some of those, then you'll know really how serious are we, how aware are we as a nation that we are in trouble. It's when we should be in, whenever I'm teasing my friends, I say, we have entered, I'm trying to think of a word for it, I'll tell it to you in a minute. So when you're playing football and you've run out of time.
Extra time.
Yes, no, but then there's, when they all start kicking the last ones, that everybody is so serious about it. And that is what I want the country to get into, that mode, that the time for playing around is past. We're now in really serious business of fixing the country.
Indeed. Well, I think a part of the expectations will also come out. I mean, for Nigerians will also be felt by members of the National Assembly. And I think that members in the opposition, like yourself, will also be feeling the heat, because there's been some light now turned to the Senate, and there have been issues that have come up, and it would seem that they haven't quite gotten the reaction that they thought they would get from senators or even lawmakers in general from the opposition. One of them was this issue of vehicles, because people thought, oh, look, if we are, in danger time, I'm trying to remember the word too. I think I know the term you're looking for.
Yes, you know the term. But we're not footballers, so we know. Yes, that's the key.
But we're quite there now. If we're there, then we all need to act like it. And vehicles that were worth 160 million are being imported into Nigeria. None of it made here. Didn't quite indicate that we understood the times.
Well, like I said, when I was on a previous interview on Channels, I personally believe that, yes, those vehicles need to be bought. They're statutory, they're utility vehicles. But I also believe that all government vehicles, whether they're for elected officials, appointed civil servants, anybody, we should only buy vehicles assembled in Nigeria. For one thing, it would grow the economy. It would force companies like Toyota to set up an assembly plant here, because we buy a lot of their cars. If they really want us to buy their cars, then they must come and set it up here. So we haven't put enough pressure on car manufacturers.
Have senators put the pressure on themselves? Well,
I must say, I think before the 10th Assembly came, the cars were already ordered.
The cars for the 10th Assembly were already ordered for them?
I assume, yes. I don't think they wait for the Assembly to be sworn in before they do the ordering. I think they prepare the same way as they prepare to give us furniture and photocopiers and all those things we work with. I think they prepare it at least a few months ahead.
So senators had no say in terms of the kind of vehicles they wanted?
Maybe we would have a say in the ones in the 11th, what happens in the 11th Assembly, but we didn't have a say, no, in what vehicles we got or when they were bought, all of that. We did we did feel, I personally felt that maybe because I'm not a car person. Could have given me any kind of car and I'd have been happy with it.
Well, let's go back to the budget. The hope for the budget is that it will continue to be, the fiscal year will continue to be from January to December. Mm-hmm. How feasible do you think that's going to be when you look at the fact that it's been presented at the end of November and this is about to enter the holiday season? How optimistic are you that, the work that needs to be done will be thorough before senators go on recess?
Well, we're trying to do our best. That's what I'm saying. We're not going on recess because of that. We're just going to suspend plenary and continue with committee work just to get it done.
Has that been communicated to senators?
Oh, yes. We do know. So normally tomorrow we would have senators would not go to work, but we're working on Fridays, we're working on Saturdays, we're working on Sundays. We're working around the clock, basically, just to get it done. Fine, we don't like it. We would have preferred that we got it much earlier, but we do what we have to do. That's the truth.
I'm looking also at the fact that right now you represent the Federal Capital Territory. Mm-hmm. There's a new minister in town, a very boisterous minister at that. Former governor of Rivers State is now the new Minister of FCT. He's been speaking on things that he intends to do, especially in the area of infrastructure, in terms of development of the FCT, etc. There has been some pushback against some of the policies that he's come up with, but I do not know how it is. I mean, considering the fact that you're elected by the people of the FCT, your relationship with him, have you been able to explore a working relationship with him?
We only just met yesterday, but I am optimistic.
For real? You only just met?
Oh, yes.
This week?
Yes, we only just met. We've communicated on the phone. He's spoken to me a couple of times, but we've only just met. I think that he means well. He just needs to be guided. He's come from being minister and he feels that from being governor, and he thinks that he can be the Minister of FCT in the same manner in which he was governor, but it's not quite like that. So that being the case, I'm hoping to work with him as long as he's willing to work with me. But then if he's not, then there are certain things I know are not in the interest of the people of the FCT. And as he says, his job is separate from mine. I was elected by the people to protect their interests. He just reports only to the president. And but I also think that the president would also have the interests of the people because he was also elected by the people. So until we interface a little bit more, I can't tell you whether it's going to work or it's not going to work. But I appreciate the fact that he's got the guts to do some of the things that need doing. I just think he needs to be properly guided. I keep insisting on that. That is the guidance and the prioritizing.
Guided by who?
By the elected officials and the people of FCT. Maybe the elected officials will convey the wishes of the people of the FCT because we are more in touch with them. We know what they need, what they feel. We know the difficulties they have. We are in a much better position to see those things and to communicate them than he is.
Do you think some of the priority areas that he set out are in tandem with some of the things that you have heard as an elected representative?
Some of them, putting the name on the CFO will curb corruption a little bit, but I also think that the 3.5 million blanket, it's not fair. Or first of all, the people who can actually afford it, the people in Maitama, Asokoro, possibly some areas of Wuse too. Most of them, I'm sure if you check, will see that they have CFOs. They don't really live in estates. They live in standalone houses. And even when they live in estates, they're not the kind of people who don't have CFOs. Now, the people who don't have CFOs, they cannot afford to pay that kind of money, especially in these times when food is expensive. They can barely afford it. transportation is very high. There's no light. FCT has the perennial problem of no water. Where are they going to get 3.5 million from? I think that the minister should set up a digital platform. He should also not charge a blanket price, a different price for people in Asokoro, Maitama, like grade them in A, B, C, and on that way. There are some places where they can barely afford 100,000 naira. They build their houses, blood, sweat, and tears. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that being the case, he should charge a nominal sum for the CFOs. I do believe everybody should have one. Then give a reasonable amount of time. Don't tell them they have to do it in 4 months. 4 months is too short. Give them a specific amount of time, I would say a year, to all get their CFOs, and to remove the middleman and the corruption. Digitize it. That was the advice I was going to give to whoever became minister, to say, digitize these things. I understand the amount of corruption that is in the system, and that's why a lot of people don't even bother. It's one thing, this is the official price, this is what you pay, this is what you pay this person, that's what you pay. So if he digitizes it, it cuts out the middleman. And secondly, once you get the CFO, then make them pay their ground rent the same way people pay annual returns. You just go to the platform and you pay it, and for every month or so that you default, there's a fixed penalty.
So from what you know, because you had to go to all of these other places to seek the votes of these people to be in the Senate, would you say that their own issues, their own priorities are also being tackled as well? Even
in AMAC, one issue that is of the utmost importance, that is actually urgent, is insecurity. There is nothing that is more urgent in the FCT than security. Even in Maitama and Asokoro now, you can get kidnapped. Not to talk about places like Keti, they don't sleep, Nyanya, Lugbe, all those places. People stay up, Mpape. People, I know a lady told me, Madam, we don't sleep at night. They live in Mpape. I said, why? She said, kidnappers. They're up all night. They come into their neighborhoods. They cut people away. When you try to run away, they shoot you, kill you. So it is a major issue in FCT. Also, and that is across all of them. Recently, I had some chiefs in my house. The one living in a place called Robochi had to run. And I understood. He says, Madam, you know, he's been kidnapped before. So he needed to leave. So insecurity is really of the utmost importance in the FCT. Then secondly, for those areas you're talking about, bad roads, all of FCT, no water. We the elites, we have boreholes. So those things to me are more what the people need. Yes, roads, but they're only doing arterial roads. I think that the minister putting a grader in each local government in the rural side, like Kuje, Gwagwalada, Kwali, oh my, the impact it would make. Because then at least there will be something that the vehicles can move on to take goods from their farms to the market. But right now there's nothing.
So I imagine that, there will be further conversations then with the Minister of the FCT.
Yeah, I hope there will be.
Well, how are you finding it though? I mean, you're a first-time senator. So far, so good. How would you rate your experience from coming from the outside and looking in? Now that you are on the inside, how would you rate your experience so far?
Well, we come in there as professionals and find that there's so little we know about the workings of governance. I'm learning because you have to learn a lot of things, to learn the processes, how to present a bill, how to present a motion, when the other senators say this, or when the Senate president says that, what does it mean? If you want to speak, what do you do? So from us, the new senators, we've been learning. I certainly have. I'm still learning.
Well, I think that this conversation will certainly be something that will be ongoing, and we will be catching up with you much later. You have a four-year term at the minimum, so it'll be interesting to see some of the solutions that you have been able to come up with some of the complex problems that you're currently encountering. Senator Ireti Kingiibe, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Well, that's the program tonight. Thank you for watching. You may send us your feedback on any of the issues raised using the handles showing on your screen. Thank you once again. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.